versus B. So clearly, the municipalities are using their municipal engineer to put together those roof surveys. There are some firms in New Jersey that are now certainly branded and do this for fee for service. With the roofs, particularly South Jersey, there's been an awful lot of smaller engineering firms that are doing just the roof survey, as you would see a land surveyor. So, we wish you certainly an active engagement and encourage you to pursue this process. And Andy, with his team, will remain as close as they can, of course, and provide any available technical assistance as appropriate. It is a new program. It is an innovative program. Andy, is it safe to say this is a first in the nation for PSEG in this New Jersey service area to be providing this opportunity with the rentals?
I don't know. I think there's a lot of different programs. Maybe we're one of the first, one of the few, I don't know if we're the first, maybe it's a few utilities that have this type of program. I don't know if we're I can't say if we're the first or not, but maybe one of the few that have these types of programs.
Okay, so I guess we'll take the time to try to figure out what kind of space we have.
With all due respect, I don't see it happening. I mean, why would we, you say it's an opportunity. I mean, with all due respect, you might want to get some feedback and say, as a public utility, and we've come to you as a public utility, to suggest that we have to spend some engineering fees to present to you the possibility of a lesser return that would cost us for the engineers to give us a study. I mean, it doesn't seem like it's a good deal for us. I mean, that's my initial, with all due respect, I just don't see it. Like, if those kind of numbers that you're talking about, if we do, a borough engineer do a study on and present to you those findings, it costs us more in a year than we would get back in rent, I mean, is that possible?
Unless there was some kind of a bulk rate that we would receive on the energy itself.
But I guess what I'm saying, I would think that you would have a program where you could at least give us some sort of like rough estimate of what the potential is.
We would prefer
Because
them to.
the administration offices obviously give you all of our available spaces and the potential. I mean, that's an easy thing to do. But to spend money and then give to a public utility those sort of, those specs for you to come back and give us a rough estimate, with all due respect, I just don't see that as a viable program. And I'm done.
The solar developers out there do this.
So you're saying go to the private sector? Is that what you're recommending?
Solar
You better slow down. You might have a job next week.
But if you go on to New Jersey clean energy programs.
Oh, we went to the league. I mean, there was 25 booths that do this.
Right.
We went to our government utility or public utility because we thought maybe there was something there. And it sounds like we probably should reach out maybe to one or two private firms and see what they offer.
The grant company might help us out with that.
Could be.
And my point is that they can look at your space.
At their cost.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Because it's an opportunity, typically it's an opportunity for them.
That's a good tip.
And they can look at it and most likely quickly tell you what the capabilities are or are not.
Andy, how many waves of these RFPs will there be?
Well, you're talking about RFPs, and I think you're a little far down the road, but.
No, my question is, for example, if you were to go to a developer, and on the developer's time and dime, they were to come back with a proposal, a plan, and do your surveys pro bono as part of their plan, it certainly.
I mean, it's a concession for development.
It is certainly a valid concern that you've raised in
Yeah, but we
terms
need
of
an
the
ambulance.
municipality.
We need an ambulance and a lot of other things before we get a return on a few dollars an hour, so I mean.
Right, no, clearly, but for the, for the developer to come in at their own risk and provide this survey, as Andy.
For solar energy on the borough property.
Correct.
Why would we do that? I don't understand that. Why would we?
It is an alternative.
Okay.
And we must disclose any and all.
So you're saying a potential builder would come in and do this study for you, is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
For us?
he would be able to look at your space and be able to identify how much solar capacity you could fit on the rec building, the parking lot, or any of the spaces that you may have available.
Thanks, guys.
Now, we have our other guest now. You wanted to briefly just mention this other program?
Yeah, so in essence, there is a program since Superstorm Sandy. It's called Energy Strong. And one, let me introduce myself to all of you. I'm relatively new to Edgewater with PSEG. I greatly appreciate, on behalf of our state governmental relations team and our local regional public affairs managers, the opportunity to present tonight one option on sustainability with Andy, which is this solar program. But that is certainly only one part of our overall utility market. So with Superstorm Sandy, the utility had a goal of becoming one of the most resilient utilities in the United States. And our chairman, Ralph LaRosa, within days after the storm, spent an inordinate amount of time in Washington, D.C. with the USDOE, back in New Jersey with the Board of Public Utilities and other areas, taking a very hard look at our own assets, cradle to grave, every substation, every transmission and distribution system, every switching station, everything that was underwater with our gas shop and operations with all the mains. And they came up with a conservative estimate of close to $4 billion of what it would take to shore up our infrastructure, certainly in New Jersey. And there's been much press on all of this with what it would take so that should there be another superstorm, there would not be a loss of power. And so there were different scenarios that some of the best engineers in the country got together. One was if you were to go underground, it would be billions and billions of dollars, and that might not even be appropriate in New Jersey, where we have so much of this aging infrastructure under the ground, and so that there might be other issues with flood, which could certainly not be controlled. There have been all sorts of proposals going from putting tidal walls around all of Manhattan and all of the waterfront here, which again would be billions of dollars, or what was the most conservative approach, and which is available online at our PSEG Energy Strong website, would be raising the substations. So in areas where the new flood maps are certainly justifying going upwards of 10 to 14 feet, we've begun the initial engineering work and assessments, and as quickly as we can, every one of those substations is now in design with an anticipation that we're going to get a yes in Trenton, that this administration with Governor Christie is working with us in a very strong partnership, as are the 85 municipalities that have signed on to partner with PSEG so that we can make the hard investments in our infrastructure, raise the substations, shore up what's going on with our transmission and distribution, and take our own financial risk to do what probably should have been done over the last 20 years, but was not done because every time the utility would go in rate case before the Board of Public Utilities, the answer that we got was, sorry, no, it's too much money, too much risk. What's changed is the marketplace. I don't know if anyone at your homes with PSEG on gas saw the bills this month, but clearly the price of gas has dropped significantly, and if ever there's a time to go, if ever there's a time to invest in New Jersey's future, it's now, as prices are maybe the lowest we'll ever see in a lifetime, because what this will do is levelize the cost for our ratepayers. so that there will not be a dramatic increase at all for any of our users, including industrial large customers. And we view this as our opportunity, as we see so many companies now coming online and requiring certainly much more in the way of their own power and sustainability, that this will help us to build the capacity for the next 50 to 75 years, so that we remain, you know, the #1 safest, most reliable utility in the U.S. And what I would ask for in the most respectful way tonight is consideration of a simple resolution, which would be a resolution of support for PSEG to invest in our infrastructure and our assets with the Energy Strong program. And I have voluminous documents that I could certainly come back with if you wanted a technical presentation, and we could share every asset in our system with one of our senior level vice presidents of asset management on our power system, and specifically where these investments would be and how impactful they would be here. What we experienced, I guess, as you were all coming back from the League of Municipalities, there was a very significant outage. And the reason for the outage, one of our facilities was actually under construction after Sandy with a switching station. And there was a issue. And in a minute, we saw how many municipalities go down as we were furiously working to complete a very significant project.
It was a fire, correct?
Correct.
So it was a fire.
It was a large fire. There was certainly some human error involved, but I almost use that as the example that the equipment was so sensitive because of the weather conditions as they were going through completing that critical work. So I would also like to, one, share some gratitude for all your partnership over the years with PSEG, and especially during the superstorm. And if you would respectfully consider this resolution, it would certainly be greatly appreciated by all of our employees, our unions, and certainly our management. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And here's the hard copy.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for coming in tonight.
Okay,
Thanks,
thank you all.
Andy.
Thank you, guys, appreciate it.
Thanks, Andy.
Take care all.
Thank you.
This conversation we have with Lenny.
Would you like me to switch?
Just like that.
You know, yeah.
No.
How are you? Happy after Thanksgiving. Traveled to Texas, came back, my daughter's gonna have a baby in a minute. I'm like, oh my God, too many kids, too many things. Phone calls yet, so I'm glad to be here tonight. And I know that you wanted me to come, so I'm here to talk about where we are or what you'd like to know.
In their packet, they have received your meeting minutes when we met with representatives of the DEP, and the mapping that was provided electronically as well, which I see you probably have a bigger
I have a bigger
big
map,
map,
so
which
that
may be helpful.
we can just
for
kind
tonight.
of go over everything.
Right now, if you recall, when Pat was here the last time, the charge of the mayor and council to Pat was to replacement property we need to find in consideration of the docks should be placed within the column. So with Pat's help, she has located what is technically considered a conservation easement within the colony now. And she has been in communication with the DEP as to how we can make this conservation easement the replacement property for the boat docks. Let's take-
So let me just show you what we're talking about here. We have, this is the entire conservation easement is in yellow. And this was provided during the course of the sewer, as I understand it, when the colony was going through the sewers, they were required to provide a conservation easement. The colony owns the easement.
And it starts opposite Rusty's and works its way north to the Fort Lee border.
And we were-
Road.
and we
All
were-
along.
Right, all along the road. And we were talking about replacement in kind. That means that for the parkland that is being occupied by boat docks, we would have to replace 1-to-1. Okay, so you're up to date on that. So what we did was we started to look at where it would be most feasible to come into this parkland easement. And they basically are starting across from Veterans and then working our way up the culvert,
Veterans Way.
Veterans Way, right, off of River Road. And we had a first when we brought this to the attention of DEP, they said, well, they'd have to look at the conservation easement and see if it was doable. And they came back to us and said, well, the way this happens is that we, as Edgewater Colony, would have to deed over as an exchange to the borough, the parcel of the area, of acreage, replacement area, so that they can put it back on the Rossi list. So it would become, again, parkland, public land.
Just ratification, this property right now currently is owned by the colony.
So, we were out there with Green Acres, and then Green Acres came back and said they wanted to show land use, because land use was actually the division that created this requirement for the conservation easement. And in order for us to be able to utilize this conservation easement, or part of the conservation easement, would be that DEP would have to relinquish some of the language that was in the easement that would allow for us to use it for parkland and public access. So, we are now at the point where we identified in the field how we can get public access here, but then the other aspect of it was that in furtherance of improving public access, they wanted the connection to be to the Palisades State Park. So I take the parkway all the time, that's why I came out. But anyway, so we looked at physically how that could be done. And there's, either we cross the culvert at the top somehow with some kind of natural material, or come out onto one or the other borough properties, which is Lot 1 or Lot 3 up in the corner, and then cross onto River Road and then connect into the park from River Road, considering if there's future improvements that be part of the design to get public pedestrian access. It's only pedestrian access that we're talking about. So that has been where we are as replacement exchange property. So in order to do that, we have to map out what we did before and probably extend it up to the end and show that as the replacement parcel, still not knowing exactly what our 1-to-1 is.
And what I wanted for you to see is when we walked the property, not once but twice.
I did it
And
like
you
6
did
times.
multiple times.
I have my path set up now.
So land use representatives of the DEP started, once we made our trek to the top, well, you know, we need to do improvements now. And I looked at her and I said, what improvements? Well, we need to make the property usable. And I said, well, who's paying for this? And she proceeds to say, well, you're going to have a lease agreement. And so those funds can pay for those improvements. Now, the important part to understand is that this is a drainage culvert. It's not a babbling brook, it's not a stream, but it's a drainage culvert that takes most of the storm system up in Fort Lee and makes its way through a pipe to an outfall here underneath a little stone bridge into the culvert and then out into the river. So she was throwing small wooden footbridges and
Not me.
mulching paths, and I looked at her and I said, what happens after the first big rainstorm in the springtime? I said, you know, you don't understand that this acts as a culvert. This technically floods out. And it's my understanding we cannot create obstructions within that right-of-way. So some of those details needed to be worked out, and they weren't really ready to give the stamp of approval yet on it anyway. So, but these were some of the things that they're throwing out at us as we're trying to come up with this reasonable.
And we were looking at, you know, how sometimes you can have an improvement that is so fixed, like the Hudson River Walkway, and which is not exciting at all. I mean, you see it every day. You know, you do it and you know the lay of the land. But in here, you know, it would be a little bit more adventurous, like not having the typical kind of a path, you know, where you would be, or everything would be flattened out and, you know, set up perfectly. It could be something more adventurous where you would have natural materials from what's in the park here, or what's in the conservation easement that you can use as your walk path, like we do in some of the other areas of the Palisades, where you're using your natural materials to create an interesting path, you know, something that is sometimes a little challenging, but, you know, something that you're not just doing it for a walk. You can walk on a sidewalk if you want to walk on a sidewalk, but we can do something a little bit more.
Yeah, except for handicapped people.
Well, does it have to be handicap accessible?
Oh, we didn't get into any of those details.
We didn't get into those
We didn't talk about
details.
any of that, but, you know, we're talking about putting some, you know, 4 foot, I think they said something like 4 foot wide throughout, making sure.
Two questions. First of all, I appreciate and applaud your effort to start looking at your land versus our land.
Got so beat up the last time.
No, and you have to do that. I mean, I still would like to go back at some point and look at perhaps the properties you have up for sale to increase revenues, and I think eventually you're probably gonna have to use those. Because the biggest thing I see right here, the biggest problem I see is that strip is, and I would never vote for it until it's a sign off by the county, because I would think in the next 10 to 15 years, River Road North is gonna be widened, and it's gonna go to the right, it's gonna be right down that strip, and it's gonna be 30, 40 yards into that whole strip going up, because it's basically by the Schmidheimer's house, the old Burdette's Landing area, across from Rusty Kale's all the way up to the top of the hot dog stand. That whole strip is eventually gonna be used, and gonna domain otherwise by the county for the widening of River Road. And now, I'll be long gone, hopefully alive, maybe in Florida, the sun, but the bottom line is, they're gonna use that land, and I think if we allocate that, what does that mean? And do we need to sign off by the Bergen County Department of Transportation, whatever that entity is, to say that they will, you know what I'm saying, like, what is the, what is the offset?
Well, no, that's a good point you bring up, Mike. We have 2 preliminary proposals from the county, which we had shared on your login a while back. We had actually received them, and that was to eliminate this area right here by Massa Lane, straighten this out. Now, these properties up here, I know the majority of the 4 or 5 properties are borough homes, except for the one. And so they would eliminate this curve in the roadway. Then you have the ability to widen up into, what's this, Pat?
Oh, geez, hold on.
Hey Greg, I don't want to cut you off, but
That's
you're
what-
you're
that's
referring
what
to the study and the effort to increase bike lanes and what? You're talking about this proposal from the county to widen the road to 4 lanes like the south end?
No.
Well, that's what I'm talking about.
No. There is a preliminary proposal to realign portions of River Road from the area of Rusty's north. And when I mean preliminary, they are. Now, what you have to keep in mind is, this already is a conservation easement. You can't encroach on it. So the green area that you see to the west of the yellow is the only area that can be utilized now or in the future for any type of widening.
Even by eminent domain? And you know that for a fact, is that, I mean, that's a question, is that jive with you, Mr. Council? I mean,
Well.
Because you're in the same, you would be in the same boat as we are with the boat docks, pardon the pun, is that you would have to come up with replacement property.
They would.
We would if we
Well,
were ever to-
again, if, there's a lot of moving pieces right now. This conservation easement is owned by the colony. To effectuate what Pat just explained, this conservation easement would be deeded over to the borough to become borough property, to be included on the recreation and open space inventory. Either way, if this property remains a colony easement, or if this property becomes a recreation and open space inventory property, the county cannot encroach on this conservation easement, except for in this green area. There is a way to do it, and that way would be a diversion. And frankly, I don't see that happening for this. That's just my
Well,
opinion.
what do you see happening when they eventually have to go to 4 lanes all the way up? Whether you don't believe there's a way for them to
Personally,
acquire
I
that whole
don't
strip?
see that happening. I mean, there's too much property they would have to consume.
Well, not right now, not to the right, when you go past Rusty Kales up the hill, it's all scrub, I mean, you call eventually parkland, but it's basically a scrubland all the way up.
You have the widening in front of Rusty's, which
piece.
right, which gives you the width.
Right.
Then as you proceed north, you do have these green areas, which is a combination of borough property and private property, which can be taken and utilized. But that's it.
How much, do you know, how many feet roughly?
Conservation easement?
No,
The municipal
Yeah,
property and the
municipal.
private property. Do you know how wide the largest?
roughly 15 feet.
40 feet.
The green,
Center.
not
I mean,
the
the
yellow.
property, this is pretty deep, I would have to say it has to be around
40 feet from the
I would
center
say-
of the road. County has the round.
probably 30 here,
Absolutely.
I think about 30 feet.
And the narrowest part, do you
The
think would
narrowest
be?
part is, well, this is, I don't even know if this butts up with your property, but that's not to be at the also. Let me just see if I have something more presented.
But this is very preliminary,
Yep.
and as we move forward, all these questions, I implore we get answered and signed and make sure we're comfortable with, because, I mean, it's an offset, you know, I get it. Whether there's a couple bridges, whether it's handicap accessible, I get the idea, you know.
Well, that's,
But with all due respect, when the time comes in this, you know, this hub of this area, they're gonna go right to the road.
Largest.
They're gonna go right to the road.
look, anything's possible, and they certainly could do that if they want to spend the time and expense of doing it. My point of having this discussion tonight was just to make you aware that
Great.
they are looking for improvements. Originally, when we started this exercise, I was just simply looking for property.
Right.
I mean, I found cliff face that we could have utilized.
Oh, they could literally take that and designate it without doing anything. Is that?
Well, here's the funny thing, and Greg and I were like both looking at each other, I think, in the woods, saying to ourselves, you know, when we first started this, it was supposed to be compensation and replacement in kind, in that we were not in a situation that we were asking for new docks. And because we were not asking for new docks, because that would have made us a major application, okay? We were only supposed to be doing replacement in kind.
Mhm.
So if I'm doing replacement in kind, I don't have public access right now.
Right.
So, I mean, now I'm put in a situation where it's not only am I in kind, but I have public access. Now, why do you think that came up? I was trying to figure out, why are they making us talk about public access? So when I looked through the rules and I said, oh, I see what happened. In the past, where municipalities or nonprofits wanted to buy property for public parkland, they could buy an easement, a conservation easement, so long as they provided public access. So I think that's where they came in to say, okay, you'll get the right, maybe you'll have the right to use this for your replacement exchange, but the only way we're gonna do it is the way we do it if we went out and bought it as a property that you want to buy for car. And put that provision, that's the only thing I can do.
I would say, I'll be quiet, I apologize. I'm very comfortable with the fact that
And we want your.
we're not
That's
taking
fine.
we're not taking a public park and trying to replace it. We're taking basically people's backyards that go into the Hudson River that we never had, that we're trying to get back. And I don't want to use any of that money to improve that strip of land, because that money should come to us in terms of income for the borough. But I do applaud the effort. If in kind, that means public access or not, you'll get that defined in terms of law. If we're gonna make that a green strip, I mean, I'm all in favor of that, because we're basically taking river water, replacing it with potentially long-term green strip. Is that fair to say?
Yes, and it's.
As long as everything else is in line in terms of
For what you
the
put-
eventual widening and eventual access and all the laws, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, it's basically exchanging what is on the river, the docks that are on the river for green space, the location that the borough can attach to the others for the law.
I think it's a good effort.
And that's, I'm at the point of, I talked to the colony, this is what, they had gone through a lot of effort to get exhibits done, flagging done, so we could walk it, get an indication as to how we come out, where we come out, how we get to how we get to the park if we needed to get to the park. We saw that, that there are opportunities. I would think that it would be a really nice asset to have for the borough, because, as I said before, you could go on a fixed sidewalk somewhere, you could go on a fixed walkway somewhere, but if you don't have this type of a situation, where you would need something that's a little bit more interesting, that you don't have to spend a lot of money to do, something that can satisfy the public access needs.
So you would be able to, let's say, cross the street somewhere down by Rusty's and then get onto this strip,
Veterans, we were
which would
looking at-
become sort of a park, are you saying?
It would be
Open
dedicated,
space owned by the borough,
it would be deeded from the colony
and
to the borough.
and it would be open space, you could put benches in there, or it's wide enough, and that's basically what it could be used for.
Yeah.
It's just pretty cool.
But as you
It is
said, where's the
cool.
sewer, where's the
I
sewer
lost my
come out?
glasses.
Where is that in the middle of the park?
No, it's gonna be coming to your right, to your east, as you walk up
Is
River
it,
Road. You'll
Yeah.
get
It's
to
a
the west
culvert, it cuts right through it.
so it cuts right through, meaning is it an accessible space, or is this
Well,
just?
this is what there's, you can add some nice wooden footbridges, and I said, you can't obstruct a culvert. Yeah, you can put stepping stones.
And there are
I
stepping
put a
stones.
And then
reasonable-
we're responsible to maintain it? Okay.
But it's a kind of a really natural setting here. We could cross the brook stepping on a few stones.
Oh, it's cool down there.
I don't wanna call it the brook, the culvert.
Culvert.
But culvert,
It's the right term.
use the right term. But you can physically get there, and, where I found my glasses was where the bamboo was, and I crossed over there, and that was like, that was one of the crossings that we identified as a place that you could cross and get onto borough property to get to River Road.
But
Would the colony be willing to allow an access for the public to walk through the colony and come up onto it from the colony property?
No,
Some
it
sort
would
of
come
path?
from veterans.
No, I understand your proposal, but as we move further, would you consider that?
Well, their existing conservation easement lets you walk through those roads.
So then,
They
therefore,
have
is there a possibility to have a pathway, instead of coming from River Road and crossing that very busy street, to go down into the Annette Avenue and maybe come up on a nice little pathway? I'm not saying yes or no, I'm saying that might be something we would,
I can't answer that.
yeah,
question.
I know you can't, but maybe go back and talk about that.
Because it's in everybody's backyard.
Sure.
Yeah, you got it.
Plus, it's also safe.
It parallels
It's a safer way to
everyone's
get there.
backyard.
Well, when you actually walk there, there's such a difference in areas, there's different elevations. And sometimes the houses are really up higher where they wouldn't even see somebody walking below them, so it's like, it's a very, it's a.
Have you ran it past the Schmidheimers yet?
Yes, I have. So all the little things.
And what are they saying?
People out there?
What are they saying?
They're getting shotguns
Huh?
ready.
Well, they weren't saying anything, but I heard what DEP said about
We're
them.
gonna find out.
But anyway.
That's a whole colony thing, that's all right.
Yeah, anyway, but that's, as I said before, I really think it is, a good candidate to present to DEP.
I would go
I
forward.
know that they're gonna have to go back to land use and have land use make a recommendation to release whatever provisions they had in there so that we can use it for exchange. We may wind up, you know, again, we want to do one-on-one, we may wind up having to do a little bit more to get to that point, that we need to get up to that point. We wanted to get to from veterans. Yeah, we're gonna have to negotiate all the time. You know, I wanna get the application in to them, and my biggest thing since, I guess it's been since May, since when we had to talk with them, is about how we're gonna get a replacement parcel to exchange for this, and, you know, between that and trying to get all the docs together and have people file all their applications and get
And
all
they
their
rejected a lot of docs.
and a lot of them, they still want more information, so we have to get, you know, shareholders to give back to them and give them more information, which is, you know, I think at this point, I don't know how they can't look at this and say, yeah, this has been used historically. You know, they were kind of making a thing about the first one colony, right, on Shore Road. I mean, the man had Burdett's Landing, there were piers, there were, I mean, everything there. I mean, so, you know, he has to go back now and just get more photographs, get something with a photograph with a year on it, something. So, you know, it's just more work, but, I mean, they'll do what they can do, I'm sure. You know, we're just all trying to work to get this finished and behind us. And that's the goal here. So- Oh, please. I'd probably be able to go to sleep at night a lot better.
That's a lot of time and effort.
It is a lot of time and effort, and it's really a very unique situation. So this is not like something that you've ever seen before. And we probably,
Just like it.
I apologize. One more, I mean, I know we're wrapping up here. One more time, going backwards, if there's gonna be any improvements or any assets within that strip, footbridges, footpaths or whatnot, you're gonna back away from asking us to use the offset or the fees from the docks to pay for that?
no, the way it's
She
supposed.
threw that out.
Well, okay, and I think it's a
Or we
non-starter.
could be collecting a rental fee from
Yeah.
that too, correct?
Whether she's saying use those rental fees to, instead of.
Yeah, the one thing where she did give us consideration, goes, well, she goes, I don't expect you to do the whole thing in one shot. And I said, well, I would certainly have my public works crew when we mulch a tree.
That's fair. It's a
I
part.
would bring the mulch down, create the path,
It's a part.
and build it as we go.
I mean,
And she didn't seem to have an issue with
You know, I had worked on a little bit of a project in my town in this kind of a situation, and we had gotten some really good funding, but no matching, just for providing, you know, a path, I mean, for a path to connect, to keep people off streets. There was the T-21 grant. I mean, there are grants available if you wanted to take advantage of them too. I'm not saying that, you know, this is the only thing that, you know, and again, if you're not going crazy with the design, you use your natural materials here, we should be able to do something really nice.
Has there been any discussion, because the Hudson River walkway is not realistic going along Shore Road, I mean, does it make sense to talk about potentially wrapping up through there into State Park to continue or to end it?
Well, no, the idea is that they definitely want, one of the caveats is that they need to have, the whole improvement here would be so that somebody can connect to the park, to a bigger park.
Right.
See, that's what they talk about in their regulations and their provisions. They say, okay, if you use a conservation easement for the public access, connect to a bigger parkland. That's the kind of picture that they painted. So that's why, you know, that's why the requirements are coming to us in this fashion, because we are asking to use this conservation easement. And this is the only property that's really here to be able to use. And it makes sense to do something where you have the ability to make it with such close proximity to the interstate. So that's where we are. I hope if there's any questions, you know, that everybody endorses us going forward with presenting this as the candidate. We have to develop a summary mapping that would show the replacement as like replacement land. It's a little exhibit that goes in the application. So we have to have the surveyor just show something, so.
And a written understanding of what would happen in the future if they went beyond the borders, if it expanded, I'd like to see exactly what it means in terms of dollars offset the rental fees for the borough versus what you expect as a percentage going into for maintenance, yearly. I mean, the devil's in the details. So not an overview, I'd like to see a very specific plan signed off by everybody before I would vote on it.
I don't know how that's going to happen at this time. I mean,
Well, not today.
I mean, no, even at this
Moving
particular time, but, I would think that if this is accepted as the replacement exchange, that there'll be all kinds of conditions, because DEP doesn't go, out there and give you anything without a condition or two in their approvals. So we would have to then address it then. I mean, we looked at it on the concept level, and, we got it down to the point for land use to see what we were talking about. They're the ones that are gonna have to say, we recommend that this be used, and we don't have that final answer yet. That we can advocate as a group to have them say, yes, this is the thing to do. The borough doesn't have land that they can, they gave up a lot, they have a lot of land that's on the Rossi, but they don't have any more land to put into another replacement or an exchange. Do you want to go out to the county? They told us we can go out to the county and look, but nobody wants to seem to go anywhere but stay nearby here, so that's where we are.
That's a fair thing.
Tony, you have a question?
Mayor, are we 100% sure that if we ever did this, that if that road had decided to get widened, we could never lose this property down the road? Are we 100% sure of this?
Well, we're going to do before we vote on it.
I think that's what Chick
I-
was asking.
I'm sorry. what's your
Say
question?
we went for the whole deal, and 10 years down the road, they want to widen River Road up there, and now that's our property, and we lose that park.
No, the county has easements 40 feet from the center of River Road on
40,
both sides. 40 feet, both sides.
so you'd lose it.
Of course.
No, they would have to go for a
No, the
diversion.
county already has easements.
Okay, so that has to be all part of the deal, so
I'm sorry?
get your work cut out for you, always. But I think it's a great concept, it's a great concept.
All right, we'll pursue the concept.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're right. What would happen if they happen to
Solar panels, I worked for a developer that was renting, what he would do is go to the towns or buildings, major industrial buildings that had.
And
lots of
county owns.
Any county road, 40 from
rooftop space.
the yellow lines in the middle, that's where it is.
Whatever the center of the road is, engineering wise.
In order to put the
And
solar
Mike
panels
was right
up, and then they would in exchange do all the engineering to their building, metering, get.
It doesn't matter.
That's
That's a borough.
So that was another, and then I did the solar panel.
County or state, I think.
Solar is something, I guess they like everybody to consider.
And good luck with the baby. Good luck.
Oh, I
Grandma.
can't wait. This is my fourth one in less than, in a year and a half.
Oh, my gosh.
4 boys,
Well,
4 boys. That's incredible.
good job, thank you.
Thank you very much. Nice to see you. Happy very Merry
Thanks,
Christmas.
Pat.
Thank
I'll talk to you.
you so much.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
All right, so, let's bounce around on the scans, you know. Get everybody else. Items for consideration at the December 16th meeting. Do we have any?
The items for consideration are the November 6th.
I'm sorry, that was, okay, the minutes. We have the minutes for November 6th, 2013 special and closed, November 12th, 2013 regular. As of this time, we don't have any ordinances.
We won't. We won't have enough time to.
The only, I have on my,
The resolutions that are prepared as of now, 2012, 273 through 2013, 285. Greg, do you have any reports?
yes, I'm gonna try to be quick, Mayor. I met with Mike Masseri today. If you recall, we discussed the possibility of metering the Shady Side parking area And so Mike Masseri and I have been discussing that. Since he was party to an agreement we have for parking down there. He has a history of the area since he does own some property there. And he is interested in coming to talk to you. And whether or not you do it at the December meeting or perhaps probably January would probably be better. We'll wait till we get into the new year. So he has some ideas which I think are worthwhile in listening to, as far as the possibility of metering that Shady Side parking area. So just wanted to keep you.
Craig, I'm sorry, and what does, I mean, I know he did he give it to us completely, control, or were
It
you
was
just being, were you being polite?
an
or
agreement
does he have-
between Metropolitan
Third.
Associates, Mike Masseri and the borough. We actually have a $30,000, I guess you would say trust account, so to speak, to be used specifically for any maintenance that may pop up in that parking area. But with the new development that has gone in there, we previously discussed that we think it's a good idea to look at the possibility of metering and increasing some of the restrictions down there. Right
And
now,
enforcing it.
yes, and enforcing it, and that is part and parcel to our previous discussion about possibly hiring meter staff that would specifically be used for those public parking areas. So we'll schedule that for a January meeting and go from there.
Or potentially including it in the code enforcer's job description as a possibility?
I mean, that's something we have to talk about, so. And we do have a sizable amount of specials as well, so.
Yep.
And that should be their responsibility as well, so. You do have a letter from Terms Environmental dated November 27th, essentially giving you some background and status. I know Phil wanted to briefly talk about that. I don't know if you want to do that now or wait, Phil?
I think I'll wait, if I may.
Wait till what, later in the meeting?
Well, there's two items we need to talk about in closed. One is the Binghamton ferry boat removal. We do have an agreement with the former operator there, and we may have to take some sort of action in relation to that. I'd like to discuss that in closed. And I also think it's appropriate to discuss the Terms recent correspondence and the ramifications of that letter. So I think I'd like to also discuss that close.
Okay, not on your agenda, but will be on the agenda at the next public meeting, as an emergency appropriation for police salary and wages. As you know, we've been monitoring that, and we knew we were going to come up short based on some overtime, and that was one of the concerns of the chief when we did that one-way for Undercliff Avenue. So we'll have that on the agenda for the next meeting. Barbara did receive some correspondence, I believe, from the chief in regard to a police recognition. I'll have her discuss that. But Lieutenant Ring also provided to you a list of officers who they were submitting for recognition for merit award. So I don't know if you want to.
Okay, we could just put that as a resolution or as an agenda, I mean, we don't have to talk about, I mean, it is what it is, right? I mean, let's just-
Well, I don't know how Barbara was going to report on the.
I didn't plan on it except for, basically, real quick. A resident of Edgewater was very instrumental in finding, or a person was instrumental in finding an Edgewater resident whose name will remain quiet, anonymous, who has, I guess, some sort of Alzheimer's, something was missing. And this resident found, the silver alert, paid attention, found the car, and he was safely found and brought back to his home. So we would like to recognize them at the December 16th meeting.
Resident.
The person, not the resident, I think the person who found the resident.
and, that's it. And then emergency resolution, they received a copy of, correct?
Yes, they should have. Also in your packet is correspondence from Phil Boja and Neglia in regard to the bids for the bulkhead or wave screen at the marina. We received bids from the lowest of $274,250 to the highest of $523,200. Both the borough attorney and engineer recommending the award to Rycom Group at $274,250. I'm simply asking for your consensus to start moving forward on this. You will have an agenda you will have a resolution to award at the next meeting. However, we do have some factors that are affecting the work, such as the DP restriction on sturgeon, along with a grant expiration, so we do want to get moving on that job. So we're going to be working with the engineer to sort of expedite that in anticipation of the award for the next meeting.
So is that the first short?
I don't need one. If anyone had an issue with it, certainly could mention it.
It's just important, okay, you know.
We did receive RFQs for the Quanta Resources environmental engineer. Must have had about a dozen pick up. We had 4 submissions. My thought process was to simply wait until the mayor and his committee met with the other professionals, and then we can simply do this appointment in January, unless you guys want to do something else, since we're already in December.
Just a quick question on that, the fact that they're testing and drilling, there's no.
I've spoken to Honeywell, they've actually completed,
No,
they're
so
done,
It doesn't matter, okay.
they're done, so.
Say no more.
You have a change order reduction for the old Borough Hall. Historic Borough Hall has been completed and turned over to the borough. I think they did a commendable job.
Especially the piece over one of the bays, that looks really good.
Yeah. They did a good job. Have a letter here from A-Home. It was circulated the last time in your package.
4,000.
In regards to units not being able to be sold, but then they will consider renting them.